I decided since I was messing with the vinegars, I would just go ahead and come on in here and check these guys and kind of fill you in on what's going on. This bucket was the peach vinegar, and it has completely done its thing. It had all of the peach bits were dropped to the bottom and just the liquid in the top, and it had a mother on top, and it was happy and healthy, and I went ahead and tasted it, and it tastes like vinegar. So it's good. I like to let them sit another couple weeks before I strain them. Sometimes that just helps give them a better fruity flavor. And then this back one here is apple, and I opened it, and it kind of looks like this one up here, except for I can't really see the mother in it, and it should really have a mother by now because it's been a couple of weeks, I think, since I started it. And so what I did was I opened the jar, this little jar of peach vinegar that I made a few weeks ago, and it had a mother floating on top, and it has some mother also down in the bottom. You can kind of see it, not the white label, but just kind of this creamy white looking, almost looks like a wet paper towel inside of there. There's 2 or 3 mothers in there, and that happens because when you stir them, it kind of knocks them down to the bottom, and so they will regrow another mother on the top. And so you can borrow, and that's a live mother, which is the bacteria that you need to make your vinegar, and so you can borrow it from one container to the next. So I took the peach mother, and I went ahead and placed some of it on top of this apples, and I just left it on the top. They say that's the best place for it, and so we'll just let it cook another week or so, and then I'll check on it again. Now this guy is kind of hard to tell. It is also apple scraps, but you can kind of see right in here this creamy, it's kind of weird looking substance. That is mother, and if you start looking here and here and here, you can definitely see it right here and over here. That is doing what it's supposed to. So it's very likely that this back bucket I did just a few days after this one. This one might have been first, and so sometimes it just takes a little bit longer. But anyway, we're just going to go ahead and give it a quick stir, and I'm going to cover it back up. I just thought you should see that. You can also kind of tell sometimes on the side of the bucket where your original line was, which is like right up here. So it has sunk about 1.5 inches from where we originally started, and that's good. That's just your fruit scraps that are breaking down and somewhat turning to liquid. That's what you want. It's probably some evaporation. That's fine too. Just makes for a stronger, more acidic vinegar. So it really doesn't take much. You just give it a little bit of stir and cover it and go. I did want to talk a minute about the tomato vinegar that I started, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, and last week it smelled so bad I couldn't take the smell anymore. My family couldn't take the smell. So at a request of my friend, I went and talked to a guy at the local hometown brewery. It's a place where he has many books and equipment, and he also teaches people how to make wine and beer and vinegar and cheese and a lot of just homemade fun things like that. And I explained to him about the vinegar, and we had a nice long conversation about the tomato and how bad it smelt and how it was not working. And I went ahead and pitched it, and he suggested adding yeast, and he uses what I believe was called a brewer's yeast, but he said a baker's yeast would be just fine. And it's a little bit of like Fleischmann's or whatever brand of yeast that you use if you're making bread, and it doesn't take very much. And so what happens is you can add that to your fruit scraps in the beginning, and the yeast and the sugars will cause this to start to ferment, and it goes through an alcohol stage first. And once you get the alcohol and you let it sit and absorb more air, the more air it gets oxygenating, the more it will turn to a vinegar. So he said probably what happened was tomatoes are no longer as acidic as they used to be. And so he recommended the next time I try it to use citric acid in with the tomatoes. And he said, try that. And he was said that should probably fix the problem. And I could have saved it, he thought, but I was just kind of done with it. I had all these 5-gallon buckets of vinegar sitting around, and the smell of the tomatoes, I was just kind of done with the whole thing. I still am getting about 100 pounds of tomatoes out of my garden once a week, and so I have enough tomatoes still coming in that I could try it again. Or I might just wait till next year, right? And gotta learn something new next year. Maybe I'll learn tomato vinegar. Anyway, I just thought I'd pass along that little tidbit of information. He also said that if you drink wine and you let, if you drink about half a bottle and you cork it and you come back to it a few days later and you want to drink some wine and enjoy it, and you taste it and it has a funny taste. A lot of people will say, ooh, it's soured. Well, yeah, it has turned to vinegar. And he said that is some of the best vinegar you'll ever taste. So, any of you wine drinkers out there, you can use your leftover wine and turn it to vinegar. It really just needs oxygen and a few more days of sitting out.